All right, gamers, it's story time. If you're all about those epic narratives that pull you in and don't let go, you're in the right spot. We're diving into the best story games that have it all. Heart-pounding plots, unforgettable characters, and twists that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Whether you're into action-packed sagas or deep, emotional journeys, these games are must-plays. So grab your snacks, get comfy, and let's jump into the worlds that'll make you feel all the feels. Red Dead Redemption 2 is as immersive as they come. Taking notes from westerns like Deadwood and Django Unchained, Rockstar Games' epic rewards your patience and persistence with a story that pulls you into its world slow and steady. The best story game of its kind, Red Dead Redemption 2 delivers an immersive, narrative-driven, third-person action experience. It dives deep into the lives of a gang of outlaws as they navigate the dying days of the Wild West, always hustling to stay one step ahead of the law. The game captures the rugged, romanticized vibe of the cowboy lifestyle, while also questioning if that way of life could have ever really existed. Sure, it might not tell the most original story, but how it plays out is mind-blowing. The narrative is packed with well-timed beats and unexpected plot twists that'll keep you on your toes. As you ride alongside the gang, their highs and lows start to feel like your own, showing just how much heart and depth this game has. When it comes to sheer spectacle, not many games can throw down with this Spidey sequel. Venom is the real MVP here, jumping between characters and forcing some epic showdowns as a dangerous plot unfolds. It cranks up everything the first game and its spin-off setup, building to one of the best stories in gaming. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 brings back Miles Morales and Peter Parker, swinging from building to take down a massive threat to the city. Right from the start, the scale of the game hits hard, keeping you on the edge of your seat until the credits roll. It's hands down the best story you can play on the PS5, tying together threads from the last two games and teasing some big stuff on the horizon. The main storyline in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 centers on Peter Parker. After a run-in with the Venom symbiote, he gains some sick new abilities and a boosted sense of power. Sure, it's a classic Spider-Man tale, but there are enough twists and turns to keep things fresh. Harry Osborn's involvement and a second Spider-Man in Miles Morales bring a new flavor to the mix. Miles' story hits hard, diving into how revenge always has a cost, backed by some stellar performances. Sony exclusives are known for their blockbuster stories, and Marvel's Spider-Man 2 doesn't disappoint. With epic villains, jaw-dropping set pieces, and Easter eggs all over the place, this one is a must-play if you've got a PS5. Cyberpunk 2077 throws you right into the gritty moral dilemmas of Night City, pulling you into its depths and hitting you with tough choices left and right. The Phantom Liberty expansion takes this to a whole new level, and trust me, it still messes with my head. With the game-changing patch 2.0 update, Cyberpunk 2077 finally feels like it's hitting its stride. No more annoying bugs or clunky mechanics messing up the story. It's been over 3 years since this sci-fi RPG first dropped, but now CD Projekt Red's dark cyberpunk epic stands tall, earning its spot on our list of the best story games. Packed with unforgettable characters and more than a few jaw-dropping twists, Cyberpunk 2077 delivers a mostly linear story, but it doesn't hold back on throwing some serious moral choices your way that shake up the narrative. Even with its straightforward plot, the story packs a punch, diving into some deep personal and political themes. The remastered and beefed-up version of the cinematic PS4 horror classic from 2015. This new edition of Until Dawn cranks up the story, adds a third-person camera view, and boosts the graphics with Unreal Engine 5. Until Dawn sticks to the story from the original, but mixes in new plotlines to keep things fresh. The main crew here is a bunch of teens who head to the mountains for a weekend getaway, looking to shake off the trauma of their friend's mysterious disappearance. But things go sideways real fast. They're not alone on Blackwood Mountain, and what starts as a chill trip turns into a fight for survival. How their stories play out and who, if anyone, makes it through the night is all up to your choices. At first glance, Until Dawn seems to follow the OG mechanics, but the devs added some new tricks, like fresh camera angles and the option to see the action from a third-person perspective. Throughout the game, you'll switch between different characters, get thrown into some seriously creepy situations, and make choices that can change how everything unfolds. Even the smallest decisions can have huge consequences, so think before you act. One wrong move and you might be saying goodbye to some or even all of the characters. There's even a chance that none of them make it through the night. On December 14th, 2022, CD Projekt Red dropped a free next-gen update for The Witcher 3. The complete edition, featuring the base game, all DLC, and story expansions, was mainly built for the new-gen consoles, but the PC version got some sweet upgrades too. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition is set in a fantasy universe created by Andrzej Sapkowski in his series of The Witcher books. You play as Geralt of Rivia, the OG monster slayer from the previous games. The story dives into a war between the Northern Kingdoms and the invading Empire of Nilfgaard, all while trying to stop the Wild Hunt, the haunting force that's been on Geralt's tail throughout the novels and earlier games. Plus, there's the search for Ciri, Geralt's and Yennefer's adopted daughter. The plot is non-linear, so your choices shape how things play out and which ending you get. The main story gets beefed up with 2 epic story DLCs. First up is Hearts of Stone, where Geralt takes on a job from the mysterious Master Mirror to face off against the immortal Olgierd von Everec. Then there's Blood and Wine, set in the peaceful land of Toussaint, one of the few places untouched by war. But when a deadly, otherworldly murderer starts causing chaos, the Duchess Anna Henrietta calls in the White Wolf for help. Geralt soon uncovers some dark secrets hiding in this seemingly perfect land. Gameplay in The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition is in third person, set in a massive open world split into several huge maps. You can roam freely across spots like the scenic Velen, the Witcher Keep of Kaer Morhen, the rugged islands of Skellige, and the vibrant realm of Toussaint from the Blood and Wine expansion. You can explore on foot, ride Roach, Geralt's trusty horse that shows up with a whistle, or even set sail on a boat. With dual perspectives from FBI agent Saga Anderson and Alan Wake himself, this genre-defining horror game lets you dive into a chilling and gripping story from different angles. These alternating perspectives amp up the narrative, keeping you guessing every step of the way. Alan Wake 2 delivers a perfect mix of scares and thrills, setting a new standard for survival horror. The storyline is packed with twists, doing Stephen King's legacy justice. Brought to you by Remedy Entertainment, this third-person horror game throws you into a series of unsettling supernatural events, breaking the rules with unexpected twists. While the original game is a psychological horror classic, you don't need to have played it to jump into this one. The sequel is built with new players in mind. The story switches between FBI agent Saga Anderson and Alan Wake as they fight to survive supernatural threats. It's a grim tale that digs into your psyche, drawing you in with mind-bending mysteries until you're fully hooked on its dark world. In a review for TRG, staff writer Ellie Gould called Alan Wake 2 beautifully terrifying. Gould added, "I also couldn't ever put it down, despite its scares giving me the shakes." In Stars and Time flips the script by dropping you at the end of an epic adventure instead of the beginning. Right off the bat, you're thrown into the deep end with a crew of colorful characters and their established relationships, pulling you straight into the emotional storyline. Drawing inspiration from classic turn-based RPGs and modern indie gems like Undertale, In Stars and Time goes for a storytelling approach that breaks away from the usual formula of the best story games out there. Just like in Deathloop, the main character, Siffrin, is caught in a time loop, battling to thwart the world-ending plans of the sinister king. The writing is top-notch, gradually cranking up the emotional stakes until you're fully hooked on the characters. As you loop over and over, you start feeling Siffrin's frustration firsthand. Sure, repeating the same tasks might sound tedious on paper, but the repetition itself pulls you deeper into the narrative, delivering a story that's as captivating as it is challenging. The Last of Us Part 1 does what a remaster should do, and then some. The upgraded graphics and mechanics don't mess with the tragic, gut-wrenching story at the heart of the game. If anything, they make it even better, breathing new life into the classic. Right now, The Last of Us Part 1 is hands down the ultimate way to dive into those tense action scenes and heavy storytelling that made the original a legend. With better visuals and some minor gameplay tweaks, it still stays true to what it always was, a gripping post-apocalyptic tale with killer third-person action. More than any other game on this list, The Last of Us Part 1 nails its pacing, seamlessly blending gameplay with its story. You've got those intense combat moments mixed with slower, scavenging parts, all tied together with cutscenes that pack a punch. Naughty Dog reminds us that when the world ends, it's not just about the catastrophe, it's about the people trying to survive it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth brings the heat with some of the best written characters out there. Even the random dialogue hits hard, pulling you into the deep lives of Cloud Strife and his squad. This is the second part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. While the first game is a stunning rework of the opening act of the 1997 classic, Rebirth cranks it up to 11. This RPG is loaded with top-tier storytelling, unforgettable characters, and just the right amount of side quests to keep you hooked without feeling overwhelmed. The story follows Cloud Strife, a haunted mercenary, and his diverse crew as they race to stop the villainous Sephiroth from wiping out life on the planet. Rebirth dives headfirst into big themes, giving the whole narrative a mythic vibe. The epic cutscenes bring the drama and action, all backed by a killer combat system. It's mostly real-time, but lets you pause and strategize when you need to. Rebirth serves up an unforgettable story about friendship, loyalty, tyranny, love, and identity. It's deep, but if you're in for a ride that doesn't hold back, this might just be the best story game for you. Baldur's Gate 3 pulls off the almost impossible, giving you total freedom while still spinning an epic, tightly woven story with tons of different twists and turns. No matter what kind of character you roll with, your protagonist fits right into the world. This game is a storytelling masterpiece and absolutely deserves a spot on this best story games list. Unlike the old-school CRPGs, Baldur's Gate 3 serves up a full-on cinematic experience. Every cutscene is top tier, with pro voice acting and motion capture that really brings the cast to life. Plus, there's a narrator whose rich descriptions suck you in and don't let go. Larian Studios' RPG masterpiece gives you countless branching paths, and every single one feels legit and rewarding. It's your fantasy playground where you can weave your own tale, but it still somehow stays narratively tight all the way through. Whether you're playing as a do-gooder paladin or a ruthless sorcerer, you get to tackle the game your way. No small feat for a game of this magnitude. God of War Ragnarok had some seriously big shoes to fill, and it somehow pulls it off, being everything its predecessor was, and then some. The battles are more intense, the cast of characters is way more interesting, and the overall narrative is even more gripping. God of War Ragnarok takes what made the first game epic and cranks it up to 11. Combat's been fine-tuned, throwing in some killer shield-focused abilities and skills. Traversal's a blast now, and thanks to a bunch of new tools that make getting around way more fun. Kratos and Atreus go head-to-head with Odin himself in this massive sequel, needing some uneasy allies to help them out. The game boasts an awesome ensemble cast that really amps up the story. There's a talking squirrel, more wild moments with everyone's favorite dismembered head, and tons of father-son drama between Kratos and Atreus. The story wraps up Kratos' Norse saga nicely, but still leaves room for future adventures. If you dug the first game, this one's a must-play. If you haven't played it yet, what are you even waiting for? Star Wars Jedi Survivor picks up where the last game left off, diving deeper into the story of Cal Kestis and his crew. It's got everything, twists, turns, and some epic reveals that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Plus, you get an expanded lightsaber arsenal and fresh force abilities to mess around with. The game does an awesome job of broadening Cal's journey beyond the events of Fallen Order. Right off the bat, the crew's a bit scattered, with Cal on a mission to revive the Jedi Order and save other Force sensitives. You'll run into some familiar faces and meet some new legends while planet hopping and dodging the Empire. Where Star Wars Jedi Survivor really shines is in its storytelling. It's way more massive than the first game, with a bigger cast, tons of twists, and some killer reveals that connect to the larger Star Wars universe. Throw in top-notch lightsaber combat and even a semi-open world to explore, and you've got yourself a solid game worth diving into. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is an action-adventure game from Eidos Montreal that dives into the wild story of the Guardians of the Galaxy. You play as Peter, Star-Lord, Quill, and team up with Rocket, Groot, Gamora, and Drax for another epic, over-the-top mission. The game takes you into the sci-fi universe straight out of the comics. A few years back, the galaxy got wrecked by a massive war, and the aftermath is still causing chaos. But things are about to get even messier with a new interplanetary crisis on the horizon. You'll be facing off against tons of enemies, blasting them with Star-Lord's elemental pistols and using his jet boots to outmaneuver the chaos. You're not flying solo, though. You'll be calling the shots for the rest of the squad, directing their special attacks. During battles, you can hype up your team with buffs like faster cooldowns or stronger attacks. You'll go up against everything from regular foes to epic bosses. As you level up, you'll earn experience points and unlock new abilities for Star-Lord and the crew. Plus, you'll collect parts to snag various upgrades. The game also gives you dialogue options that can shape your relationships with the characters and occasionally steer the storyline a bit. But keep in mind, it's mostly a linear story, so it all leads to one epic finale. Mass Effect 2 has one of the most unforgettable squad lineups in gaming history. All 12 of the supporting characters come with deep backstories, and thanks to the variety of dialogue choices, you get to feel like you're shaping your protagonist's relationships with the crew in your own way. The crown jewel of the Mass Effect saga, Mass Effect 2 injects some much-needed sci-fi drama into our best story games list. While all 3 games in the core series are legendary in their own right, Mass Effect 2 stands out by offering both the best standalone experience and the most compelling story arc of the 3. As you dive into the narrative, you'll face tough choices and weigh some serious moral dilemmas throughout BioWare's epic space opera. In this third-person RPG, Commander Shepard is on a mission to save the galaxy from an ancient threat. No longer backed by the galactic government, Shepard turns to a sketchy terrorist organization for resources and support. Throughout the game, you're gearing up for the suicide mission, a risky assault on the enemy's base where your main characters, including your protagonist, can bite the dust. To pull this off, you'll need to gather a crew, upgrade your ship, and prep for the fight of a lifetime. Along the way, your Shepard will forge new bonds, face new challenges, and maybe even find love. Deus Ex is, in many ways, the OG of modern immersive sims. Plus, it dives deep into a cyberpunk narrative that tackles heavy-hitting themes like globalization, transhumanism, and political ideology. Dropped in the year 2000, a ton of games on the best story games list owe a huge shout-out to the innovations that Deus Ex brought to the table. Made by Ion Storm, this sci-fi RPG puts you in the shoes of J.C. Denton, an agent of the United Nations Anti-Terrorist Coalition. Just like its spiritual successors, Deus Ex Human Revolution and Deus Ex Mankind Divided, the game dives into the whole transhumanism vibe by having its main character juiced up with superpower-giving nanomachines. Along with a gripping main storyline, Deus Ex lets you carve your own path by hitting objectives in your style. Whether you want to go full stealth mode, talk your way through situations, or just brute force it, the choice is all yours. Even the ending, no spoilers here, gives you massive player choice, putting your moral compass to the test as you decide the world's fate.